Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 494. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
Hey.
Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. This week, Season 11 takes a special new turn in a bold new direction, as we do not look backwards on a game from long, long ago, and we do not play a game selected by just one of us. In fact, it's a game selected by the three of us, collectively, to fill in a bye week within our schedule. It is Sonic Frontiers, released just last year. So we'll be talking about Sonic Frontiers, our experiences with it. You'll, of course, rank Sonic Frontiers on our list of video games. But before that, of course, we have to open with a fun question. Matt, I would like to know, what fledgling little video game franchise do you feel is due for a win?
Due for a win. Madden. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
Matt, yeah, they're that franchise struggling and having a rough time.
I mean, not financially, but gameplay.
All right, fair. I'll give you that. As a player, I will give you that. You've earned that through the years. What could they do?
Get rid of Ultimate Team altogether and...
Man, wouldn't sports games be so much better if they didn't have all that crap?
Like, spend some time in franchise mode where it's a lot of fun. And
yeah.
I guess this could stem to a couple of EA Sports franchises like hockey and things like that. But, yeah.
Yeah. Mark, what about you? What video game franchise is in desperate need of a win?
Is this implying that, just a few recent games just haven't really been that great?
Well, yeah, because I think there's those games that we want to come back, those franchises we'd like to see come back. This isn't necessarily that question, because those may happen or may not, and we've certainly documented those. I'm talking about something that hasn't died, something that has consistently been making new entries in its series, but they just haven't really hit the mark. Pun intended. Ah, man, yeah, that would be...
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Pokemon.
Oh. Ugh.
All right. I'm intrigued here. How would you fix it?
I would change its gameplay entirely. I would stop doing turn-based battling.
So make it Pokemon Stadium.
Well, that's also turn-based.
Pokken.
Yes, I would absolutely make this more like Pokken, without a doubt. I don't know. I just feel like even though they're trying new things with each one, and in some ways they are impressive more than the last one to some degree, I think they're still, I can't help it, but it feels like they're just phoning it in here and there, and it's like, I don't know, they're one of the most profitable companies in the world, and yet make some of the most mediocre looking things, and it's almost insulting.
It sucks.
They have potential for so much more.
No, and I see the I think Pokemon, especially in the last few months, I've seen more and more of my friends list playing Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet, and those games obviously sold, whether they're the best-selling games in the franchise or whatever, because of course they are. Because of course the ones that get the most
Well, yeah, I mean, sales, it's going to be just name recognition alone and curiosity. Yeah. It's never going to be because it's good.
It's good. Yeah. But it's weird that this one is the one that definitely looks the worst and looks like it has the most problems out of the gate, and yet it still sold the most. And that's someone who defended Pokemon Sword as well. I still like this one. So yeah, I've been conflicted because I want to buy it, but and then it's also tainted the experience of going backwards to the older ones too, because I've wanted to do that to sort of scratch that Pokemon itch that comes up every now and then. But yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think both of those are great answers. Like, they haven't died. Those franchises are still very much alive, but yeah, they're just not innovating and they're not, trying to improve.
Like, you got to do more than funky hats.
Yeah.
Like,
you need to have playable funky Kong, I think.
Or let me, like, headbutt with that hat, Like, let me...
That's not a bad idea.
Some of what you're asking for is in Unite, by the way.
See, like the spin-offs are more interesting at this point than the main games. That could be a problem.
I don't want to turn this into a whole Pokemon thing because I could, but I think you're right. The problem with something like Unite, though, is that it feels half-baked. Like, obviously it's a full-fledged, spin-off game, but with it being free to play, it just has all that other crap bogged into it, and then you end up
like
missing...
8 different currencies and 35 different sub-menus to these currencies?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
People might not like what I'm about to say, but I think Pokemon Go is their best game so far.
Yeah, in terms of that raw experience and discovery, I still like when I think back.
Sorry. I also, to give the context, I also haven't played a Pokemon game since, like, the 3DS. So, maybe my view's a little skewed here.
Yeah, but that just means that you're missing out on Sword and Shield and Let's Go and
Arceus.
Scarlet Violet. Which
Arceus.
one?
Arceus.
Yeah, Arceus is fine. The catching mechanics were good in Arceus.
Gameplay was boring, though.
Yeah. Whole lot of nothing. Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like we have a potential future episode where we help some other franchises find their feet, I think. So I will leave Mark and Matt to continue writing their pitch documents to fix Pokemon and Madden respectively. I'm not even going to answer the question because I don't want to take us off in a different tangent. It's time we talk about Sonic Frontiers. A franchise that did it, I think. I don't know, I guess we'll find out in this episode. Sonic Frontiers, developed by Sonic Team, published by Sega, released on nearly everything you can want it to be released on, right? We had a Switch version, a PC version, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series. Am I missing a platform?
If you're combining series, yes.
Yeah, Series S
sorry,
and X.
If you're combining series, no, you got them.
Okay,
Every
there you go.
PC launcher.
Yeah. First released on November 8th, 2022. Back of the box. I had to dig for this one. And in fact, I didn't get it at all.
Really?
I couldn't find a picture of the back of the... Yeah, I don't know. So I had to pull it right from the website. Anyway, here's what I got. Experience Sonic like never before. Worlds are colliding in Sonic the Hedgehog's newest high-speed adventure. In search of the missing Chaos Emeralds, Sonic becomes stranded on an ancient island teeming with unusual creatures. Battle hordes of powerful enemies as you explore a breathtaking world of action, adventure, and mystery. Accelerate to new heights and experience the thrill of high-velocity, open-zone platforming freedom as you race across the 5 massive Starfall Islands. Jump into adventure, wield the power of the ancients, and fight to stop these new mysterious foes. Welcome to the evolution of Sonic games. Let's start with that, because that is not an understatement. I really agree with that statement that this does feel like the evolution of Sonic games. It took I think it took the promise of what Sonic games could be and finally realized it in a 3D space. This, to me, feels like Sonic Adventure 3 in all but name. And I think they just kind of really took the potential of Sonic and brought it to life. I think we all liked this game. I think we can go into this podcast saying that, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Mark? Is this the evolution of Sonic games?
Definitely. I remember we did an episode with Sonic Colors Ultimate or whatever a while back, and I remember saying something like, "This is a good entry point for people who probably don't play a lot of Sonic games or want to get started with a 3D one." And I take all that back. Anything nice I said about that game, I take that back. And I apply it to this one for sure.
Yeah, this one, I agree. This also feels like a good entry point, too. I think that... I mean, my heart's probably still in 2D, but maybe that's a question we close out on. But, yeah, I agree. This one feels like you can just kind of drop in. You don't need to know much about these characters, because you learn a little bit as you get to know them in this. Yeah. Matt, is this... I guess, Matt, you finished a Sonic game, let alone played a Sonic game without being forced to. Like, I want to emphasize for the listeners, we did not put this on our list. This was not one of our 3 selections for the year. We each made 10 selections. This is a bonus game because we wanted to fill in the schedule with some other stuff along the way, and we did. So, Matt, you played this. What about this game made you want to play a Sonic game?
The open world is a very overused one, and there's a lot of things that should not be open world that is being jammed down our throat. But there's been 2 things in the past couple years that when I heard that franchise was going open world, made me get excited. One was Elden Ring, and then the other, Sonic. And I think the thing with Sonic that's always been my biggest problem is in the linear levels, you can't maintain speed. Like, speed and going fast is the fun of a Sonic game. But you constantly run into different obstacles. Like, it tries to platform a little bit too much. I mean, I understand it has to platform at some point. At some point it has to be a game. I understand that. But I don't know. I just feel like the platform was never for me. He goes too fast, and then Sonic platforming like at a standstill is an issue. It actually continues to be an issue in this game a little bit, but like he never felt good just like straight up like jumping without running and going fast. This is great. It is open zone, granted, not open world, but like you are literally just going as fast as you can all throughout the map, and you see something from afar, and you're like, how do I get up there? And then you go to the area and you kind of like explore a little bit. Then you do the springs or the ramps or the grinding rail, and you start going fast and you go through the whole thing. Boom, 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 boom. Oh my God. You get the collectible at the end of it. And you're still going fast without really many obstacles. And it feels really good. And I like doing it a lot. And I enjoyed it throughout the whole. I think it mixed it up just enough. I think the evolution of the levels was just enough to keep my interest peaked. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't complete it. I didn't complete until I had a lot of fun with it. I always want to go back to it, but then putting it on this list was the last little to make me go through the rest of it. But yeah, I enjoyed. Like when I started playing it again, I was like, oh, why did I drop this? I don't remember why I dropped this. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. A lot of fun with Sonic game.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of this too is that you don't even need. Okay, so there's these open zones. They are punctuated by visits to cyberspace, which are kind of the closest to the old Sonic games that you're going to get in this one. But the premise of the game, I guess, is that Robotnik has a little robot goth daughter who creates something, and you end up on these. I don't know, see, here we go again. It's typical Sonic stuff. But you, throughout it, Sonic's friends are trapped in these little bubbles of dark energy, and in order to free them, you need to collect the Chaos Emeralds, beat the boss, yada yada yada. In order to collect the Chaos Emeralds, you need to go through different cyberspace zones, which, that's where you start running through Green Hill Zone again and Chemical Plant Zone and all those things in a 3D way. And those are the closest things to the old Sonic games. But otherwise, you're like kind of forced to collect so many. It varies from island to island, but you have this kind of like main collectible type you need to get so many of in order to progress to the next like stage or checkpoint or cutscene or whatever. And while you're forced to do that, none of it ever feels bad. Is that just me, or did you guys not get tired of? I was annoyed when I'd be like 7 away, and I'm like, where are they? Like, where else haven't I been yet? But even then, like, I'd start running and it all went away. Like, as soon as I was in motion on the path to get those 7 things, it was just fun bouncing off of things, running around, seeing how fast I could go or what I could run through. You felt that too, Mark?
Yeah, I was kind of an overachiever with this one. So, whenever something needed like a specific like currency, whether it was like keys or what have you, it definitely had more than enough to do almost everything. And I still wanted to be like a completionist, and I wanted to 3-star or 5-star, whatever that rating was, for every cyberspace level. Even though like some of those, it's probably my least favorable part of the game. Just because they're so weird. They just vary, and like the difficulty spike is all out of whack depending on like what you go to. Like it's not progressive. It's not like simple to hard. It's like easy, ridiculously hard, back to easy, maybe a challenge.
I'd start with the ridiculously hard, easy.
But but right, and it's like you just don't know what to expect with that in a way. But most of those I realized I didn't even need to do. Of course, I didn't need to get an S rank on all of them, but I wanted to, and so that's more on me than the game, I suppose. But yeah, none of it felt like torture. None of it felt like I was forced myself to do anything that I didn't want to do or didn't have a lot of fun with. Like, I enjoyed almost every aspect of this game, like even the fishing. A lot of people don't like that part, and I get it. People don't like fishing minigames in some games. They don't need to be there, but or don't like Big the Cat, which I totally get. But there was something very, very calming and relaxing and just polarizingly chill to just waste time to calm down and just do that for a bit. I don't know. I really dug the vibes of that.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Big the Cat is what fans have made of Big the Cat. Big the Cat on his own is fine. I think like leaning into it, and then I've grown, and now I'm past whatever when you're done growing and you're just you become what it is. I'm over the Sonic Twitter account. I think it is over itself too. I don't see it that often anymore, but I feel like when I do, it is a lot more muted than it used to be. In terms of that type of weird self-referential humor that like it worked until it didn't, right? But no, I like Big. I liked Big in this. I liked fishing a lot. Like there was one day, it was like a Saturday afternoon or something. I mean, maybe it recorded that morning, and then I was like, I'm going to play some Sonic. And I found the fishing hole in that level, and I was like, oh, okay. And then before I'd realized it, like I'd captured everything at that place. It had been hours that I'd spent fishing, just hanging. I don't know if I was like listening to a podcast or watching something on another screen or I think I just fished for hours, and it was just a good time.
I will say for those who don't like the fishing, and that's completely valid, it does suck that they do, if they care about the lore enough, that they do have to do the fishing.
Yeah.
In order to hear Robotnik's recordings about everything. It's not a whole
they're
lot of
all
lore,
buried
but
in there.
if you're a deep fan about Sonic, but you don't care for the fishing, that does suck for them. But it wasn't for me.
I really like too, like fishing in there. You would get the random like Sonic elements, like I don't know what to call them, but like just like level pieces
Signs.
or whatever. Yeah, like
The
those,
signs,
like,
the ring, the
fish was a nice
the
nod,
checkpoint
too.
pole.
Like the robot fish, whatever.
Yeah, those were in there. And also the fish themselves were really like cool.
Really well detailed.
Yeah, it was like the Pikmin 3 fruit of fish, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. But that was the thing. It's a fun game to play. And I think that's the thing that kept sticking with me is like, it really I never grew tired of it. I never grew tired of discovering. I never grew tired of like finding new boss fights. There's overworld bosses you have to fight. They were all fun along the way. Like each one kind of offered something different. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, having Sonic be able to actually fight and have unique moves just for this game was pretty neat. Like, they feel like moves that you would see in, like, Smash Brothers or something. But it was like, this is all, you know, first-party intention ideas, and it's cool to... Like, Sonic's been able to fight before, but it was never to this degree in a mainline game at that. So it's cool to have... for them just go creative with it and just have them go all out. Especially the boss fights.
Matt, I feel like you were not a huge fan of the cyberspace areas.
No. That's where the platforming and stuff... I don't know. Maybe this game wasn't as bad of offender as other ones that I've seen or played, but just something there kind of threw off the pace. And the thing is, they're easy enough to beat. I think it's what you were saying, Mark, where it's like you kind of, that OCD kind of kicks in a little bit, and you kind of want to get all the things, and then you kind of end up, I don't know, for me, there was like a 3 playthrough kind of pace thing. There was one just to kind of get through it, maybe find all the red coins, or at least know where they're at,
yep.
And maybe hopefully get the coin requirement. And then like the second playthrough was to clean up the red coins, or definitely get the coin requirement.
Yeah.
Maybe do time if you're feeling ambitious enough. And then the third time was your attempts at time, and sometimes time took 2 tries or 30 tries, or, it depended on the level.
Yeah, I typically got lucky with some of my first tries of, like, beating the time or finding the red coins on my first playthrough. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't, it's a gamble. It's a gamble every time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I agree, the cyberspace is not...
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
I don't want to say it's like a bad part. I hate it doing every step of the way. I think it was my OCD in me kind of wanted to do all the objectives. But that's, I think, the part I'm going to touch on that I actually ended up respecting. This is, I don't want to brag too much about this platinum trophy. This was a very easy fucking platinum trophy to get. And I do own it.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, though. So I mean,
I enjoyed playing it. So I wanted to be a completionist and complete it. But when you actually start looking at what the game is checking for, trophy or not trophy, it is very forgiving. Like, it doesn't want you to be OCD about everything. Like, you didn't have to collect all 537 of that one specific collectible in that island. If you had to, that would have been the biggest pain in the ass to do. I mean, granted, there is a map, and the map kind of indicates where those things are, but that would have been tough. S ranking all of those cyberspace levels. Hell, you didn't even have to beat some cyberspace levels. You just had to unlock them, and you just need the keys. And the keys you got from defeating enemies.
Or you could get the keys from fishing too, right? And that was another thing, like the Moonfall moments in the game, or Starfall, whatever it was. Like, you could collect purple coins in that, and then go fishing and buy keys, right?
Yeah.
It's a valid point.
Yeah, the rank up to get to level 99. Like, you didn't have to, keep defeat enemies and get the blue and the red, and then find those minions. Like, you just buy them through fishing, which by the time you get to the last level, like, you get so many coins that you can, if you're smart. I'd end up having to do this, but like, you could get so many of the fishing coins and then go back. Or I guess the price stay the same across all the fishing?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, so like, you can just wait to the last level to really do all that to get to level 99. Honestly, the most annoying part of the platinum was doing the the speed and the ring count one by one instead of cashing them all in at one time. Don't understand why that was a thing. But
that was so bizarre. Like, you could do it fine for attack and defense, but yeah, speed and rings, you needed to do one by one.
Yeah, a little unsure about that design decision, but you know, it is what it is. But I just enjoy the fact that like, it wasn't like, it very well could have been. There was like at least 5 things to collect, not even including the different thing per island to get your main objective. It's just that, you know, it either you had to collect them, but it gave you many alternative ways to get it, or it didn't care. In a good way. Like, it let you have your time back, so you didn't have to collect 500 of each thing on an island. Which, if that was the case, I wouldn't have done it. I think it was because it respected itself enough to not make you collect every single thing is why I ended up getting it.
And not in any specific order. You can approach it however you want to approach it. At least for the most part. Like, like aside from like, if you want to unlock different character parts of the zone to like activate a cutscene or whatever to like push the story a little bit, but other than that, no. Like, yeah, they totally respected how you want to approach things. I do feel cyberspace, just to hop back on that for a second. I can see why it's in there. And I can see why it's conflicting, and I feel like maybe they didn't want to fully alienate their audience by not having it in there. So I think that needed to be the padding for the transition. But I could have done totally without it. If this wasn't there at all, I wouldn't have been offended. Like, I think, because I enjoyed my time outside of it more than anything.
Yeah.
I think it was a... I think it was. I agree. I think it was needed, despite me never really liking those types of levels. I think it was needed, but I also think it was a nice deviation from gameplay every once in a while. Like,
because the open world's so desolate and sad at times that felt a little like joyous to kind of return to those places or like push yourself for a specific type of challenge.
Yeah, and I think like mentioned joyous. I think the best music is sorry, not the best, but some of the best.
Some of the best,
is in the cyberspace levels.
Yeah, there's some good slappers in them.
Yeah, but I think like overall, that was something that stood out to me is how well this game balanced itself, but also I think it met every fan where it needed to. Right? I think there's something in there. There's enough for everybody. If you are a Sonic Adventure kid, then you probably like a lot of the side characters, especially, I guess there's eras of it too, right? Like there's the post-Sonic the Hedgehog, like 2006 kids too. You really like the characters and that all of their stories and things like that. And there's enough of that in this where you get to see and meet and interact with all of them that I think like that probably satiated that a bit. There's enough of Sonic Adventure and that 3D-ness, that type of gameplay in there. But there's even stuff for like the 2D player where I know there aren't many. There's like 2D elements of some of the 3D stages where you are side scrolling technically. And I don't necessarily mean that, although that does scratch the itch. But for me, as someone who, like my first Sonic game was 2, and then that, that whole chunk of Sonic 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles and all that was my stuff. I felt satiated just in the open world running around because of that sort of like, it's what Matt talked about earlier, but that like sense of freedom and joy and speed coupled without, the like sudden stops and like
sudden spikes and your rings are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they were still kind of there. It just wasn't as in your face about it. Like it was very like it was very sparse. When it came to like different parts of like the platforming in the overworld, where like maybe you're grinding through a bunch of rails, but all of a sudden it becomes 2D and you have to like scale up something, and then like you have to get really tricky, or there could be an enemy that just pops up out of nowhere that just kind of stops everything or what have you. But again, like it's not enough to like make you want to pull your hair out and like throw your game or your computer.
I also think that those little things, yes, they're there, but by the time you get done with them, like you're like usually like grinding up a rail, spiraling like for these like few seconds, and it feels really good, and then you shoot off, you get the collectible or some coins or whatever the hell is at the end of this little like area, and like it feels good, and you're like back on the ground running again, and like I'll take those little things to make the gameplay like a game, like some obstacles, of course. But yeah, I think you're just left on a good feeling that you kind of instantly forget maybe any kind of frustration.
Sure. I think a lot of this game does have some like monkey paw moments where like you get what you want, but not how you'd want it, maybe. And but it's again, it's not as bad as it sounds. Like it's really like it's minor to me. I think the only real offender in my eyes is how the Starfall thing is handled. That like it feels like that they just kind of threw that in there at the last second. Like it's not necessary. It's cool. Like I like the whole slot thing and picking up stuff, but it always happened at the worst inconvenient times for me. Where like I'm trying to do a thing, I'm about to fight a mini boss, or I'm trying to chase down a thing so I can grind on those rails, but then this happens, I get this whole thing in my face, I can't get rid of it, I can't see where I'm going out because of it, it's nighttime out, I can't see shit, and now I have to like, alright, I guess I either gotta work around it, or just deal with this thing until it decides to go away, and then the boss thing resets again. It's like... The randomness of that is a little but again, it is minor. It doesn't happen too much to where like I'm like looking at this game in a negative light or anything. It was just could have done without it or just a little differently.
But it was nice for that like blood moon effect that Breath of the Wild had, and it's something. It sucks because I can't unmarry this now. Like once it entered my brain, I can't ever undo it. But I remember there was a thing. I'm pretty sure I've either at least talked about it on here, or rather, if I've not talked about it on here, I think I've shared it with you too. But it was this like joint interview that someone did back in the 90s with Yuji Naka and Shigeru Miyamoto, where they asked like kind of about the Nintendo approach to making games and the Sega approach and stuff like that. And the thing that Yuji Naka had said at the time to Miyamoto was, you at Nintendo will polish and work on a game and hold back its release until you feel like it is, done, but then you'll continue to refine and blah, blah, blah. And you'll work on the core of it and whatever. Where like, we're making changes up to core stuff up until we ship it. And it's stuff like that led to Sonic, like the rings, like the fact that you get hit, you lose your rings, and then you can still pick them up before meeting death, right? That happened like 2 days before they shipped the game or whatever. Like little moments like that. And I don't know that that's still the way they operate, but I kind of have that in my head now that that's just how Sega makes games. Because when you start to look at all Sega games through time, they are made, or they feel that way, where like they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. They're not always super, they're polished. I'm not trying to like dismiss the work that goes into it, but they're Sega
like a
games.
level of rawness there.
Yeah, there's something like still charming. Yes, it's something where you can tell like during development there was a lot of tweaking and messing around with like, well, what if we did this, what if we did that? And I feel like the Starfall stuff that happened, granted the name is Starfall Islands, so there's that, but like part of me felt that they played Breath of the Wild, that Blood Moon stuff happened, and they said, oh, we should put that in here. How can we do that? Right? And then like you throw in the slot machine because it's got Sonic Legacy to it or whatever. But
and I do feel just because of the nature of the game, a lot of things are kind of up to RNG. So that's just another part of it. of just the whole package. So it's like it's not intended to mess you up, but it just the chances are there just as well as anything else. So it all depends on your gameplay and your experience. So it's never the same for everyone, which I can respect.
Another big thing in terms of balance that I thought was important is the fact that this game, like most other games, requires you to collect the Chaos Emeralds. However, this was the first game in the Sonic franchise history that I've played that collecting the Chaos Emeralds was doable, relatively speaking. Probably the easiest in collecting the Chaos Emeralds that it's ever been. And yeah, you quite really have to become supersonic in order. You can't think that is just part of the story in order to progress from world to world, but you have to collect the emeralds. You need to become supersonic and fight a boss at the end of each world. I appreciated that. Matt, how does the Chaos Emeralds fall on you as someone who's not played through those other games?
A thing needed to progress the story.
Just to check, yeah.
The end of BioShock, you need to find all the pieces to become Big Daddy, then become Big Daddy and walk out, right? Like,
yeah.
No, but I mean, I know they're symbolic with the franchise. I also thought myself that this feels too easy from what I've heard of 100%ing Sonic. But I know there's significance to them. And I knew it makes I do know enough lore besides the Montana or the Nebraska thing that it makes those emeralds make him go supersonic. So
no, I just more meant did you feel like it was a total, because I was relieved in a way because I finally got to be supersonic, which you get it in Adventure, but even Adventure feels easier to obtain these than the 2D games did too. But yeah, I didn't know if it was where you were. Mark, what about you? Was it relief? Was it?
Yeah. I get the challenge of them being bonus stages before, and and it wasn't. Supersonic was never optional. I mean, it was never mandatory. It was always optional, and that was the little extra reward for the completionists. And then Adventure happened. It became more integral to the story, which I think I appreciate more because bonus stages have always changed in these Sonic games, and some are better than others, but overall, it got to a point where I just didn't care to do them. It wasn't incentivizing enough to get it. So having to being part of a story, I really appreciate it. And for it to come so easy, and you use it on more than one occasion, is also a plus. It's not saved just for the very end to where it's predictable. Alright, so by the end of this game, you're going to be supersonic, and then everyone is okay. No, you go through it multiple times. And the part where you were saying earlier about this game kind of hits notes for every type of fan out there. This is where the super passionate people who make AMVs on YouTube get their spotlight, because those boss fights are so anime and so edgy and so angsty in the best cheesiest ways possible that it's almost a guilty pleasure. But I don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, that first boss fight when I realized what was happening was pretty awesome. I mean, I know we don't do the awards like we used to anymore, but man, that would have been peak best moment win.
Oh yeah,
probably.
I agree.
It's Sonic's equivalent to Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah, it you said anime, I immediately thought oh my god, I'm going Super Saiyan. This is kind of fucking awesome.
The timing with the music, the way it builds up and it's dynamic with the fighting, they knew what they were doing. And it
felt just clumsy enough too. It felt like I was playing a Budokai, Dragon Ball Z Budokai, or a Dragon Ball Z game like that, where you never really know what you're doing. It's kind of more so button mashing, but with some knowledge of how to pull off some moves. And this felt like similar to that, where like you felt super floaty. And I think, Joe, I used this term when we were talking about this. I was like, oh, they just did the Leviathan fight in Final Fantasy 15 better than Final Fantasy 15 did the Leviathan fight.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, just a little bow on the top is like all of Sonic's abilities translated into Super are way more dramatic and exaggerated in the best ways, and I thought that was a really nice touch for not to just be flying the whole time and that's all you do is just fly. Like, no, like everything is extreme and insane and large scaled.
Where do they go from here?
I think you just build on top of this. Like, I mean, you could still keep it open zone if you want, but if it was a little more connected, I wouldn't complain about that either. Probably do less cyberspace or none at all. Bring back Child Garden.
I don't know what that is.
Honestly, that should be a mobile game. That should be a mobile game with no microtransactions. Just let me buy it for $5 or put it out on Apple Arcade or something, so that it's what. Just do that. And
with I was going to say more playable characters too, but with this game has a roadmap with DLC. It's not out yet at the time of this recording, so like being able to play as Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, I think it's definitely good enough reason for me to come back and play this again and see what's cool about that and the ups and downs. But yeah,
I think I might be asking for this in too many games with like an ensemble now. But that we haven't really seen the GTA 5 be a character any time on a wheel moment execute it in games yet. I think the first one we're going to see that is Spider-Man 2 if that comes out this year. But I think it would be really cool if you did something like that, or if you really, really wanted to kick it old school, finally let someone be Tails and be useful in online multiplayer.
Have you played Sonic Heroes?
Mark, that's a dumb question. Obviously not.
No, but I mean that one's always like you're always teams of 3 and you're always swapping on the fly, but you're all there at the same time. It's never like you're in 2 different locations or anything. But
yeah, I think I like the idea. I don't know. I guess that you could do like biomes in the world or whatever, where it really switches up the areas where you get like your desert and your whatever else you want to do. But I like the open zone for that, where like each island was its own dedicated like kind of look or whatever. Yeah, but that's I don't. I think the playable characters is a natural like kind of like. What would Tails do in this? Like we've seen what Sonic does, and we've built out Sonic's ability tree to do so much. But like, what does like a Tails character tree look like? What can Tails do in the open world? What does Knuckles do in the open world? How does he fight a little bit different than Sonic? Is he your brawler and Sonic's more your adventurer? Like, do you have roles like this? Do you almost build like a pseudo action RPG almost? I don't know. But I think that's where you can get a little weird and build.
I know I want more boss fights with that music.
Naturally, who doesn't?
Yeah, more of this is really all I'd like. So I'm with you both. The stuff that I think the only thing that like looking back on this like was a negative for me, wholly like I can't really whatever is I played on PS5 and there's still it looked great, it ran great, but there's pop-in from the textures off in the distance, and you kind of assume that it's because they targeted Switch as the platform and then scaled up from there or something or whatever. But like, I really wish that this would have had that extra month or whatever to like optimize it per platform, because that stuff, like, man, if you didn't have that in this game, that would have like set this so much higher for me. And I don't usually find myself to be someone who's like that nitpicky about those things, but it was really jarring.
You don't know where a rail is sometimes. Like, it doesn't pop up or a platform until it's like right there.
Yeah, and that was a part that, like, just for as good as this game is at moving, there were so many things like that as you moved faster, it just slowed things down. But I mean, ultimately, this was exactly what I had hoped Forces would have been. We had a brand new Dreamcast game come out in 2022, which was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it stayed fun throughout playing the game. And after hearing Matt's, how easy it was to get the platinum, I want to go back through this game again and pick up the stuff I missed.
You said about the month, but I've played this like 4 months after release, and it's still there. Like, it's even with time, and I'm sure there's patches. I can't tell you what version number I played or anything like that, but I'm sure it was patched in some way. It's still there.
That just reminded me. You should be able to go back to past zones.
You can.
You can't.
You can.
How?
It was in the menu. If you toggled over, I forget exactly now, but I remember you saying that, and I was on the 3rd island, and before going to the 4th one, I went back 100% the 1st island. It's like you go to the map, and
is it really
like
obvious?
The trigger. It's hitting somewhere. It's like you have to hit like a button on the map, and it like brings up the zone, and it brings up that like the column screen. And you can actually see the percentage of how much you cleared from each zone on it. And then you can select and go back from there.
Okay, well,
story-wise, it makes no sense. But then again, I'm not paying attention to the story, so...
Right. Yeah, better UI next time, then.
Yeah. But no, a great new outing for Sonic the Hedgehog, I think. Let's rank this thing. Let's get 52 on the board, shall we? Anybody have any gut feelings for where Sonic Frontiers lands on our list?
It's in the top 5 for me.
Whoa, buddy. Listeners, if you want to follow along with the list, you can do that at thefreecheese.com/the-list. Mark's saying top 5. If you're not looking at the list, our top 5 right now is Wii Sports, Quake, Hotline Miami, Portal 2, and Pikmin 3. Followed by Sin and Punishment, Res Infinite, Downwell, WWF No Mercy, and Undertale.
I still respect Quake enough to where I won't put it above Quake, but I could see it as being above Hotline Miami.
Oh, buddy, I'll take it. I'm not going to fight this. Matt's making that face.
I don't hate the top 5. I think it was in my top 10 or maybe just outside of it, because Undertale is right at that top, is that 10 marker, and I think we know how I feel about that game. But if we talk about this every week on the list now. At this point, there's like marker where you don't want to go above. Over there, you may as well just kind of keep going up.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. I think. Oh,
I was also thinking like right below.
5 or 6. I'll put it out there before you say something.
You're 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's what I was. That's basically what I was saying.
Yeah,
I could see it being there too, but just my initial feeling was just overall experience with it was just
I
like this that much.
Mark, when was the last time you played this game?
When it came out.
Okay, because I'm with you with putting it that high, and I just want to emphasize this is not recency bias, because I think that can sometimes happen with something. but
I last played this November 24th.
Okay.
And I am 0.1 hours away from being 30 hours in.
Yeah. No, I knew it had been a while for you. I just wanted to emphasize, for just the sake of the list, that
and it
this
could
is
be,
not...
I mean, that's a double-edged sword, though, right?
True.
Like, too much time away from it could give it some rose-tintedness as well.
Yeah, that's
so,
fair.
But I had my frustrations with this game for sure, but I still like this game that much. Like, maybe it's not that great of a game overall, but it's a damn good Sonic game.
Let me ask you this.
It's fun.
Okay, I know there was one thing in particular last year, but had we done Game of the Year in the old way in 2022, because we just kind of shared our top favorite things, but that was that. Had we done a traditional one, do you guys think this would have made a run for our Game of the Year 2022?
It probably wouldn't have been first place.
It would have ran until it met the lands between.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Matt. You were the only one who visited the lands. But I guess if we had done this in the traditional sense, we all would have had to have played everything. So, good point. Anyway,
I didn't even mean that for us. I was just saying myself, like, I think this might be my one. I really didn't play a lot new last year. I will kind of start by saying that, but I could probably. I'm trying to think of what I did play new, and this was pretty impactful. And this will probably be my 2, but I think what I'm saying is there was a big gap between my 1 and 2. There. I don't have a picture of the open zones hanging in my basement, but I do have a picture of the land betweens in my basement.
Fair.
So
I still like this at number 3.
oof.
Because I do like this over Portal 2. I love Pikmin 3, but I think I like... crap. Maybe I don't like it over Pikmin 3.
I feel like Sonic's just easier to get into than Pikmin 3 for me. So that's why I put it above that.
I'm in a weird spot where I feel like if I jump Pikmin 3, I jump Portal 2, and I jump Hotline. So it's either 3 or 6 for me.
You see, I have issues even jumping Portal 2 before we even get to Hotline. And I think Hotline's another even, like... I think Hotline is a better game than Portal.
Portal 2 is really good.
And I'm even saying, like, I personally think, in my personal list, I have Miami higher than Portal 2. So, yeah, it's tough for I'm struggling to get over Portal 2. I'm struggling even more to get over Miami. I like Pikmin 3 a lot. Yeah.
So then is this 6?
You want to put it between Portal and Pikmin?
That's kind of where I'm starting to lean now.
The new 5?
If we're trying to meet in the middle here, it keeps Mark's top 5. I don't hate it right at that spot. Sounds like you don't hate it in that spot.
Sorry for the listener, I'm shaking my head no, but yeah, no, I'm...
And Hotline Miami is like one of my babies. Like if you know me, and like I think it's because I just played that so much. I'm just like all magic of that game is lost on me now. Like Hotline games, like I enjoy them, but it's just so second nature. Where it's just like I take them for granted. And Sonic's still kind of fresh, I guess.
No, I'm stoked that now we've got... I know Undertale just slipped to 11, but now we've got 2 games from this season that have made the top 10, or in that upper bracket. I feel like a lot of the stuff we've had has been filling out the throws below, but we're getting there. I like
Good
it.
job, Sonic. You did it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, honestly, congratulations, Sonic team, for getting it. Well, that concludes not only our episode regarding Sonic Frontiers, but also the month of February for thefreecheese.com, the month of survival, as it were. Which means we're just around the corner from a new month and a new series of games. If you would like to see and read and know all 4 of the games we'll be covering in March, I encourage you to visit thefreecheese.com in just 2 days. March 1st, we're going to have our full breakdown of all 4 games that we are expected to play. But because you're here and you've made it to the end of another episode, we are going to tell you which game we're playing next in episode 495. We teased you last week and let you know that it may not be the end of Hideo Kojima this season on the Free Cheese. Next week we're playing Snatcher. Specifically in our case, we have played the Sega CD version, but feel free to check out the PC Engine CD version, the PC 88 version. They're all right along the same lines. We'll be back with Snatcher next week and come back March 1st to thefreecheese.com and check out the entire month. We'll debut all 4 of the games we're playing and, of course, our theme for the month. Till then, thank you, Sonic Team. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week. Bye.